Welcome to episode 31 of the Family Geekery podcast. I'm Danny.
I'm Amber.
And I'm Chris.
And today we're doing another character profile, but first let's talk about our day. Weeks.
We're only going to talk about today.
Yeah, just today. Only
The
today
other
matters.
6 days of this week don't matter. So who's got something going on this day or this week? We'll expand it out.
There's some big major Sims news.
Yeah.
Sims 4 is now officially free. So that's pretty epic. Danny can stop using all of my Sims, but whatever. And also The Sims had a live stream called Behind the Sims Summit, and they announced future updates and even announced and showed a small little sneak peek of the next Sims game, which is right now called Project Renee for like Renaissance and stuff, which is really exciting. But I'm probably more excited for the major Sims 4 baby update. And if you don't know, babies in The Sims 4 are objects. They sit in a bassinet and cry. But they're going to change that. So that's cool.
They're going to lie in the bassinet and giggle?
No, they showed a video of it crawling on the floor.
Mhm.
It looked a lot like toddlers.
Yeah,
So
it
I don't know
did.
how they're going to differentiate between infants and toddlers. But I don't know. More gameplay is always wanted.
So they're finally catching up to like Babysitter Tycoon back in 2006 time period.
Yeah.
Nice. Maybe they can have a mini game where you have the 100 baby challenge, but you have all 100 at the same time. And you have to change
I
all their
think people have
diapers.
done that.
Oh no. What about you, Danny? Anything you got?
Other than the Sims updates, nothing really. I watched a little bit of the live stream, but other than that, nothing.
That's cool. And I had a long road trip this week, so I took along with me a book on tape. And this time I read, or listened to, I guess more technically, listened to the book about Critical Role. And Critical Role is an online, I guess, Dungeons and Dragons group of people. They're a bunch of voice actors that well, I guess if you're listening to this podcast, you probably know who Critical Role is. I'm explaining nerd stuff to nerds, but yeah, they're voice actors who got together, and it's really neat how they started. It was like there was a guy who was having a birthday, and I think his director, one was like an actor and one was a director, and one was having a birthday, so the other one said, "Hey, for your birthday, I'm gonna do a Dungeons and Dragons party." So he invited a bunch of people over, and they had that just one-off shot, and they had so much fun. They're like, "Hey, we should do this some more." And then I guess what's the girl's name from Geek and Sundry that was in the guild?
Oh, Felicia Day?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Felicia Day. She was like, "Hey, why don't you put this on Geek and Sundry's Twitch stream?" And that's where they started, on Twitch. And then from that, they've done like several seasons now of this, and several campaigns, I guess they would call them. And I recently, after reading the book, I jumped on to see, like on YouTube, to see the old seasons, and the comments on the first episode of the first season were all the same. They were all like, "Well, it looks like I've got 900 hours of content to catch up on. Let's go." so it's because each like episode is 3 hours. It's like a 3 hour long, piece, and there's several episodes that make up a campaign. But it's pretty cool because they all do voices, of course, and that's kind of neat to watch and listen to.
I knew one of them, Matthew Mercer, because he plays Cassidy on Overwatch. So that's how I knew him.
Yeah, he's the DM or the GM. He's the one that he's like the mastermind behind it. He's pretty awesome at what he does too. So I might start watching some of that. I don't know if I'll get through 900 hours of it, but I'll start watching some of it in my spare time and see what it is. But what's really cool, and here's a trivia question for you, Amber, since you knew more about Critical Role than I did.
I
What are
don't think that's true, but okay.
what are their fans called? Do you know that?
No.
They're called critters.
Oh, that's cute.
I thought at first it was cute, and then I realized it was because critical role.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you got it a lot quicker than I did. But I was driving, so I have an excuse. I was like concentrating on not hitting people with my car. But
Mm.
yeah, so their community is exactly what I had envisioned, like our community. Like, remember I said that I wanted to form a community, right?
Yeah. Hit
Um,
us up, Critical Role. Let's do a collab.
no, I'm not expecting like billions of people like they have following him, and they've had some really successful like Kickstarters and stuff like that. But just the genuine nature of how they describe their fans and how much they're willing to donate to charities and stuff in the name of Critical Role, and how self-policing they are in their streams and stuff. If someone starts being a doofus, then they call them out right away. Or if somebody's mean to somebody, then they'll call them out right away. So I think that's probably the coolest part of what I learned about them is how the critters are so genuine. So we need to come up with a name for our fans, and I don't know, geekers.
The fam.
Yeah, we've just been loosely calling it the fam, but I think geekers. Would you want to be a geeker?
Mm-hmm.
All right, it only costs $7.
Wow.
So for $7, you can become a geeker, and I'll give you an emote, whatever an emote is. You can have one. I'll find one
Nice.
somewhere. I'll get a fiver. Make me an emote, and I'll make $2 out of it.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Yeah, that was a real good book, and I enjoyed it. It was nice to learn about a
I've got
geeky community.
book news also.
Okay.
Um Rick Riordan announced that he's finally going to be revisiting Percy Jackson in book form. So the next series will be Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Chalice of the Gods,
Hmm.
following Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, the original trio. And that'll be coming in September of next year. So I've got a long time to wait, but a long time to reread the first 10 books.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. And I guess the only other news I got is the She-Hulk has finished, the TV show She-Hulk, which I'm ashamed to say my daughters have not watched yet, but they
I
must.
hear it's cringe.
I enjoyed it,
Same.
and you gotta understand the tongue-in-cheek nature of her in the comics and how they tried to bring that out in the show. And in the last episode, there's a gag that is just top notch. It's like really cool what they did and how they did it. And there is some overly quirky stuff for the sake of being quirky, but the gag that they do in that last episode is pretty cool. I'll leave
Okay.
it at that. No spoilers.
Okay.
All right. So we're ready for this episode. We're doing a character profile. So this is our third in
Yeah.
our series of official character profiles. We had Amber kick it off with Dazzler, and then we had Danny follow it up with Groot. And for mine, I didn't tell you guys up until I give you guys the comics to read. Did you have any clue of who this was before reading this week?
No.
Nope.
So you had no clue who I was going to pick. And the character that we are profiling in this episode is Darkhawk. And Darkhawk started in his own comic in 1991. And at the time, the first line of the first issue, I don't know if you saw it, but it was a quote by Stan Lee saying that this is going to be the story of the greatest superhero of the 90s.
Yeah.
And the 90s
Was
happened to also bring us Deadpool, Cable, Spider-Man 2099. Um, they brought us a lot of stuff. The New Warriors was a big hit in the 90s. And I think Darkhawk had some crossover with the New Warriors at some point. But Darkhawk was pretty much, this is a title that started when I was reading comics as a kid. And I was all about hey, here's something new. I can start reading it from the beginning. I've mentioned that before. I didn't want to start reading Hulk in episode 262, because
Mhm.
it's like watching Critical Role in season 7. You got 900 hours to catch up on. So anytime they had something in the 90s, and the 90s was the heyday of starting new stuff because they were selling comics like crazy. So this was right in line with that. So 1991 first issue, new person, new hero, new story, and I just loved it. So that's what we're going to start off with. We read Darkhawk #1 from 1991, and then we also read Darkhawk 91 or Darkhawk #1 from like 2020 something. So a very recent title.
I think it was 21 because it said like the
Yes,
30th
30,
anniversary.
30th anniversary. Yep, you are correct. So let's start off with Darkhawk #1 from 1991. What happens in this comic book? Who wants to kick it off? So first of all, who is the main character? You remember his name?
Chris.
It's easy for me to remember.
Yeah, I thought maybe you liked him because he had your name.
He's got more than just my name. And let me explain that.
Your
He's also got
superpowers?
my superpowers and my moppy hair. No, so his name is Chris Powell, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Here's a quick side story. In about maybe a year before this, probably like 1990 or something, I had a summer job, and that summer job paid me every week. And at the end of the week, you'd go to the office and you'd get your paycheck. So at the end of week 1, I went and said, "Hey, I'm here for my paycheck," and they handed me my paycheck, except it said Chris Powell. And
Oh.
I'm like, I'm not Chris Powell. And the guy said, "Yes, you are." And
What?
I said, "No." I told him my real name, and he's like, "Huh? Oh, let me see." And he flipped. He did the little flip the fingers through the checks, and he's like, "Oh, here you go." And he handed me my real name, and I was like, "Okay, so I know the other 20 people I'm working with, and I know there's not another Chris, let alone a Chris Powell. Like, who is that check for?" And he's like, "Well, we all thought you were Chris Powell." So I was like, "Nope." So the next week I went back and I was like, "Hey, is there a check for Chris Powell?"
Oh my
they're like,
gosh.
they're like, "Yep." And in my mind, I'm thinking, and I'm like a 18, 17-year-old kid. I'm trying to think of the logistics of bringing this check to a bank and cashing 2 checks. Like, I
Mhm.
got 2 checks for Chris and Chris. But obviously, I did not start my mastermind crime ring in that case. I let them keep the checks that said Chris Powell.
That's funny.
So fast forward another year later, and here's Chris Powell, superhero. And his mom is the assistant DA. His dad is a cop. And he's got twin brothers, Jonathan and Jason.
Yeah.
So that's his family makeup. So what happens in this first episode?
There's some shady guy,
Bazin.
Bazin,
Yep, Philippe Bazin, I think is his full name.
and he's working with the Hobgoblin to try to find this thing, and we don't know what that thing is until later. Um, and so he's kind of like harassing Chris's family, like threatening the lawyer mom, and he gets into some bad business with the cop dad. Um,
Yeah, and I don't know if they spelled it out in the first episode, but his mom, being the district attorney, she's actually prosecuting in the middle of prosecuting Philippe Bazin.
Okay.
So that's why they're trying to get her to drop the case. The
Okay.
dad, we don't know what's happening, right? Just some
Right.
shady business.
Yeah, we don't find that out until the end or the middle, I guess. Um, and so there's this theme park that's closed and is going to get um, demolished. That's kind of like the base of, or that's like the location of the special object, I guess. And so Bazin wants to check that out, and that's where there's like a homeless guy that they try to get information from, but he doesn't help them. Um, and the twin brothers really want to go to this abandoned theme park before it gets demolished. So they kind of run away while Chris is out with his friends, and he's supposed to be watching them. So they go and they see their dad doing some shady stuff with Bazin. Um, and then Bazin like sees them, and the goons, they try to kill the kids because
Right.
killing kids is totally okay to do.
And it's only
Um,
going to take one bullet, he said.
yeah. So Chris locks the twin brothers in a little closet thing while he tries to protect them. And while doing so, he finds this diamond. Like, is it a necklace? Is it like an amulet or something?
Yeah, it's just like an amulet.
And so when he picks it up, he transforms into a super guy. And it kind of reminded me of like Shazam and Green Lantern.
And
Two
every
great
other superhero.
comparisons. um, so he defeats all the bad guys, and he's like confused what's happening. Like his body changed. He's got some powers and a new suit of armor and stuff. Um, and so he's doing that, and
And he's afraid he's going to get stuck in that form.
yeah.
So as
But
cool as it is to be a superhero, he doesn't want to be stuck like that forever.
right. And so then finally, after defeating them, he turns back into normal. I guess ripping the amulet from him. And he just kind of leaves it. He chases after his dad. Dad leaves them, I guess.
Yeah.
He just
He's like,
splits.
I'm out.
So Chris goes back and he finally unlocks the kids from the closet, and he's like, "Oh, hold on a second. I'm gonna go get something." And he goes back to pick up the diamond thing, and then the homeless person says that the power is the Darkhawk power.
Yeah, because before he called the funhouse like Hawk's house. I don't know
Oh.
if you caught that, but he called it Hawk's house. For some reason, I don't know if the thugs were just randomly there. That was like a place that they would meet to do their evil dealings, and it just happened to be the same place that this amulet was in the basement of this funhouse, or this haunted funhouse. So I'm not sure if that was just a coincidence or if they were really close to finding it, but they just didn't find it. But it did seem like the homeless guy knew more than what he was letting on.
Yeah, and he wasn't telling the goons, but he was really happy to tell the kid. So that's cool.
Yep.
And so then at the end, Chris is in his room and he puts the amulet back on, turns into Darkhawk, and has his like power stance moment. And I guess Hobgoblin is going to be his big enemy.
Yep. And later on in the comics, he teams up with Spider-Man, so
Oh, that's cool.
that's handy. Yeah, so his dad is always talking about how they, the good guys, when he says they need to have an edge against
Yeah.
these bad guys. So at one point, Chris even calls himself Edgeman.
Yeah.
Tell him Edgeman is here.
Glad they didn't go with that. That's a weird name.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's pretty cool. What do you think, Danny?
I thought it was cool. It
Yeah.
was because most of the comics that we read are like characters that we've known or heard of before. So it was cool to read one with someone I had like no clue about.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it is it was a good comic for the 90s because like I said it was new and they were launching a bunch of new titles, so they had to almost have like their own universe within a universe where you had a bunch of new people that were making a name for themselves, but at the same time it was an awesome way of Marvel to throw in cameos like everywhere. Like we're gonna put Punisher in issue number 2, and we're gonna put Spider-Man in issue number 3, and
A lot easier to do in writing than it is in movies, having to hire an actor and
right,
stuff.
yep. So yeah, so that was good. I think that went on for a couple years in the 90s. Um, I still have mine. I think I probably have like the first 12 issues or something before I stopped collecting. But yeah, I had to break those out and read those recently, so I thought that was a good one to share with you guys. And
I
then
liked it.
Mm-hmm.
fast forward 30 years. So in the middle of these two titles, there was a one-off issue called Darkhawk. I think it was like Heart of the Hawk. It was just a single issue, and I think it might have shown what happened to Chris over the years. So I think he eventually became a cop in the comics, and Chris Powell, the cop, was struggling between, hey, do I serve this community more as a cop or as a superhero?
Mm.
And he was always afraid that he would become the corrupt person that his father did. So I don't remember in the long run what happened to the dad, if he ever came back or something. But I don't think it was a misunderstanding. I think it was actually he was taking money for something.
Oof.
Yep. Oof. So fast forward 30 years, and we kick off the new series with Connor Young.
Yeah.
Who's Connor Young, Danny?
He is like a star basketball player for
Just
his
like
team.
you.
Oh yeah, just like me. And it begins with like in the middle of a game. There's like a few seconds left. They're down by one, and he makes the last shot, and everyone's excited. He gets interviewed, and he talks about his scholarship to a school for basketball, and everyone's really excited for him. Um, and then he's walking home with one of his teammates, and there's like a bunch of police cars and stuff. So they overhear them, and they're like, there's a robbery and by these three guys, and they're like, oh, okay. And then what do you know? These three guys stop them on the way home, and they're like, hey, good job at your game. There's a robbery over there, so like don't go and talk with the police. That's too much. Like don't do that. And they're like, oh, okay. And so they
Right.
just walk home after seeing three guys. um,
And one was a previous schoolmate or a
Yeah.
previous like high school
yeah,
jock.
that played basketball or something.
He played football. He was like the quarterback, but he didn't make it in the next step. So
Yeah,
you can kind of see where that's going, where he's a disgruntled, his dreams didn't come true, so he's gonna make his own fortune somehow.
Looks like it.
Yeah.
yeah. So they head home, and Connor's talking to his dad. He's like, "Oh, I'm not feeling the best, so I'm just gonna go for a run." This might have been like the next day or something. And he doesn't feel that well, and he like passes out,
Face
and
plants right on the sidewalk.
yeah, with a pool of blood around him. And so they go to the doctor, and they're really nervous. And apparently, he has like a central nervous like problem, and he gets really worried that his scholarship's going to be gone. They don't want someone that's going to possibly just like pass out randomly or be in trouble like that. So
he's going from like the highlight of his life to like
Yeah.
the absolute
Yeah.
worst news, getting diagnosed with MS the next day. So yeah, that's quite the arc for a couple pages.
And then he just explains that he's like really mad about not being able to get the scholarship, or he's worried about the scholarship, and like the next day or so, the next game, everyone is like, oh, where's Connor, like what is he doing, he's not playing. And so he walks out of the game, and he's just like sitting alone, and all of a sudden there's like a big building like explosion, and he sees someone in trouble, and he goes to help them, and he turns into the what's his name, Darkhawk. And he saves them, and that's that. But
The
then there's
crystal
like,
was like calling for him. Like he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
about to
saying.
pass out, and the crystal was going, Connor.
And it looked like
yeah,
it fell from the sky. Did you catch that?
I
Like the
didn't know where
crystal.
it came from. I was a little
yeah, I don't know
confused.
either.
Yeah, a couple frames back, it was like there were purple streak through the sky.
Yeah.
So it must
Oh,
have fallen from something. Maybe
I see.
Thanos' glove, it had a loose fitting or something.
But he saves the people that were in the explosion, and then it cuts to the old jock that we saw earlier, and he's like disciplining the three guys that blew up the building. He's like, why'd you do something so flashy and stuff, like what's the point of that? And then all of a sudden you see Connor's best friend,
Derek.
who was a
Yep.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yep. Which
Which-
explains
Plot
why
twist.
he could afford the $60 a pizza that
Oh yeah.
they had
Oh, yeah.
delivered.
No,
And-
but earlier when the jock was like, "Hey, avoid this street. You don't want that to mess with your scholarship." It just dawned on me. He was given the hint to Derek, like, "Hey, the police are over there. You don't want to be caught up in that. Like,
Oh, yeah.
protect our name and stuff."
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, so he's the Derek kid can afford they had 3 pizzas delivered, and the dad's
Yeah.
like, I'll pay for that. It must be like $60 worth of pizza. And Derek's like, I got this. And then also Derek was coming to the house that day before he found out that his best friend was diagnosed with MS. He was coming to talk about the product drop, which is a new pair of shoes. So there's some new kicks on the
Oh.
street, and he's already bought them, and he wants to get some, I guess, for Connor, because he's got all this dirty money that he's making from nefarious things, using Stark's energy weapons on the streets, blowing up buildings.
Future weapons.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was the big reveal at the end. He'd taken off his mask, and you could see it's his best friend. And
I think I literally gasped when I read it.
I was like, what?
I was like, huh?
so as this series goes on, and I've only read a couple from this latest series, Connor comes up with the conflict of, just like Chris didn't want to know if he wanted to keep the armor on or not. Connor's going through the same thing, but his is muddied. His decision is muddied by the fact that when he's in the Darkhawk form, he doesn't have the ailments of MS.
Oh.
And I think what's really happening, and they don't spell it out in the comics in this case right away, but what's happening is the Darkhawk armor, like when you activate it, it transports your body to another dimension, and then it transports the Darkhawk to your dimension, but you
Oh.
keep your mind intact. So it's only your
Oh.
mind, and it's some other being is actually there doing the physical stuff. And then when you take the crystal off, then your body gets transported back. So I think like as he gets injured, as he gets cut and stuff like that, when he takes the if Darkhawk gets injured in battle, when he takes the crystal off, then the human is like completely fine.
Huh.
It's cool.
So
Yep.
is it just kind of like if you find the crystal, then you're the new Darkhawk until you lose it or something?
Yeah, I think throughout the course of the first series, other people had stolen the crystal from him and
Ooh.
became superhuman. I think there was 5, and this is probably how the story progresses. There's 5 of those crystals, so there's 5 armors. So I'm sure he has to fight against like beings at some point.
Interesting.
It seems like a very he just puts the crystal to his chest and it just stays there. like, like why doesn't the bad guy just be like, oh, I'll take that? Like I'll turn you back into a human instantly. Like why doesn't someone just like shoot it off of him or steal it off of him? I don't know. Seems like a very unsafe way of keep storing your powers. Like, oops, I dropped it. But yeah, so that was a good, more modern story. He even gets referenced in like the next issue when they talk about how good he is, Connor at basketball. He's the 5th best in the nation.
Wow.
And his other friend that's on the team, I think his last name was Wu or something like that. He calls him the next Steph Curry.
That's funny.
You should tell Mom to read this one.
So Steph Curry is now Marvel canon.
Wow.
But yeah,
But
good.
not LeBron.
He signed on with Warner Brothers or something to be in the Space Jam movies.
He's
He
Looney Tunes canon.
Yeah. I don't know which I'd rather be, Looney Tunes canon or Marvel canon.
I don't know.
That seems like an epic
What do you mean? You
crossover,
are
though.
Marvel canon. You're Chris Powell.
That's true. And there's a lot of uncashed checks with my name on them.
Maybe he's real.
Cash. Maybe I worked with him and I just didn't know.
Yeah, but he had to leave.
He was that moppy-haired kid I always made fun of. With the 2 bratty twin brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those kids get like even worse, like bratty as the series goes on. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
They were annoying.
So did you guys enjoy the comics?
I did.
I did too.
We'll have to get some more out and read some more.
So is he just not that famous because they just didn't write that much for him?
Yeah. Just I think he just
like
got
a cool
lost.
Concept.
He got lost in the wash, kind of in that time frame. So in the late 80s, early 90s, big boom at Marvel, especially at Marvel. Big boom of like comics were just selling like crazy. And then it kind of imploded on itself because there was just too many and everybody just got tired, like myself included, just got tired. Like your universe just kept on expanding. And it's just like, I can't keep up with it. Everything's crossing over with everything. And it just imploded on itself. And I think he was just the victim of that. He had a series going for a couple of years and then it imploded. And when it implodes, what do? You go back to, okay, Captain America, Spider-Man, Hulk, the X-Men. We'll just go back to the basics.
Kind of how some people are viewing the movies now. Like there's just so much MCU.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And eventually I think the same will probably happen. Like the next movie will come out and people will be like, another one? I don't know.
Yeah.
Haven't we seen this Ant-Man and Ant-Woman or whatever? The Wasp.
Wasp.
Ant-Woman. Take away my nerd card. Yeah, so hopefully, I mean, they've done pretty good so far, keeping the quality up with the quantity. Let's hope they do.
Yeah.
Do that.
You guys should watch Werewolf by Night. Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch that.
It was very reminiscent of like early horror movies, like the black and white, like Mummy and stuff.
Cool. And perfect timing because it's October.
Yeah, it's almost like they planned it like that or something.
Almost like they planned it.
Almost like they released a horror movie in Halloween season. It wasn't very scary. It was good.
Does it hint at any crossover?
I think it's like separate because it doesn't. I don't think it's canon to the MCU. It's just like a Marvel production.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because as we remember from the Moon Knight episode, Moon Knight had his first appearance in Werewolf by Night.
Right. Yeah.
The comic. So I didn't know if they were going to use that to tie it together, but it's only 1 hour long, so
yeah.
I guess it can't.
It seems very standalone.
Yeah, that's good. So, pretty cool. So we'll continue these character profiles, and as we come up with new ideas, we will mix them into the podcast. And if you guys out there listening have any characters that you'd like to do a profile on, then shoot us an email at podcast@familygeekery.com, and we will check out your favorite characters and maybe do a feature on them. But other than that, any other news or comments, girls?
Nope.
Cool. So we will leave you off with this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, peace out.
Peace out
and geek out. Thank you for listening to the Family Geekery podcast. For more information, visit www.familygeekery.com. Don't forget to subscribe at your favorite podcast provider. And until next time, peace out and geek out.